Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Um, we're back to work. Fortunately, this is the third time trying to record this now. Um, but yeah, I've been missing. We, I need to get back to it, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, for now, we're gonna do 2025 offseason some more. We're gonna talk about team needs. We're gonna go through 11 through 20 on the draft order at this moment, and see where we go from there. Um, yeah, the 49ers. That they do need some help on the offensive guard position. They're definitely going to need receiver depth, especially if they do end up trading Debo Samuel off, which you cannot blame them at this point. But really, their biggest issue is on the defensive side, and I think getting Bob Saleh back is really a big deal for that. I think they're going to be in better shape because of that simple thing. But yeah, there's a couple corners that are wanting to. There's a corner that is definitely leaving. We know he's definitely leaving. He's having some emotional issues. Things like that happen, and we completely understand. They need a little bit of help on the defensive line. You have Nick Bosa. Obviously, injuries were a big thing for the 49ers last year. They have a good team, but yeah, even with injuries, you're going to have to go make some moves. Devondre Campbell didn't want to play anymore. Hopefully, everything works out there. I mean, you can't blame the guy. But at the same time, you do need some help on the defensive side of the ball. The 49ers have a good defensive coordinator coming back. So hopefully things like that work out for them. The Cowboys, they need a running back. This is a really big running back class. There's some big players like Genty Scatabo, Devin Neal, Dylan Sampson, Judkins, all those other guys really playing really good football. They're going to be back. They're going to be in the draft. So the Cowboys have a lot of work to look at, and they're going to finally be able to find them a running back more than likely. Hopefully they do go make that move. If not, signing Rico Dowdle and getting a backup would not be a bad idea. You still need some defensive help. Obviously, injuries were a big thing for the Cowboys. It's going to be a recurring thing. We know that. But the problem is that even when they were there, you were still letting up points. You can't be letting up 30 plus. So they do still need some defensive help. They have decent pass rush, but their linebackers and their secondary is just here and there. They have really good guys that pick off the football, but the problem is that when they're not picking off the football, they're usually letting up a lot of yards. Offensive line help. Cowboys always have a need for offensive line help. But mostly for me, it's just on the inside. They're getting a little bit older over there, so finding you a couple guys that can make a couple moves would be a really big deal for them. Miami Dolphins, they definitely need safety, especially if Javon Holland is not back. Obviously, he was having a couple arguments on Twitter and stuff like that. Those things just kind of happen. Or I'm sorry, it's called X now. But yeah, those kind of things just happen. It is what it is, right? They also need defensive line help for Chop. Their defense was kind of at times. They were letting up a lot of points a game. Their corners, they did release Kendall Fuller, so honestly, a replacement for him is going to be a big deal. But really, they need a better pass rush. Their pass rush, in my opinion, just wasn't. Eh. And again, they dealt with some injuries too. But at the same time, is if you just don't have that depth, you're not going to be able to get very far. Offensive guard, you still got to find the Robert Hunt replacement. I don't think you found that last year. You still need some O-line help over there. And I think that you should probably go out there and try to go make a move. You need receiver depth. Obviously, injuries happen, but really they're in trouble if Hill or Waddle are not there. And there's going to be an argument with the Lions for that for me as well. But yeah, no, they really do need to get some receiver depth and especially some quarterback depth, right? Tyler Huntley, a very good quarterback, but um, they were in that limbo. If they would have just gotten an extra quarterback, they might have won a couple more games and even looked at the playoffs. You know what I mean? So hopefully they find them a backup quarterback behind Tua Tagovailoa. Because if they find a quarterback behind Tua Tagovailoa, things will probably be a little bit better for them. But yeah, Miami, they got some issues to clear out, and mostly it's due to injuries, but at the same time, you still had to go out there and go make those moves. Indianapolis Colts, they are needing some help, especially on the inside with the offensive line. You need to get help from Anthony Richardson. He needs a tight end. You do have quite a bit of receiver depth, so I don't think that's a complete need. But you do need a tight end. I know their best tight end was probably Mo Alley Cox last year. And, yeah, blocking is a big thing that they're going to need help with. Their defense at times at 30 points a game. Obviously, that's not a winning formula we saw in the Super Bowl, the team that let up one. If you're not, if your defense is just absolutely crucial, you're going to win big games. And unfortunately, there was a big game that they had against the Giants where their defense just got absolutely throttled. So I think, other than getting Richardson some help, which should be your number one priority, getting a little bit of backup in that defensive side would be really big for the Colts. The Atlanta Falcons, they need defense basically everywhere. They have stars, but they don't have the depth. And the problem with that is that most of these guys are probably on big contracts. So you're going to have to go out there and make a couple moves, go make a couple swoggles, a little bit here and there. Michael Penix is probably your starting quarterback. So getting him a wide receiver depth is going to be important. Darnell Mooney, Drake London, I don't know if I'm sold on that being your 1-2 combo punch. But I also think that's a pretty good pairing. It's just that you need another slot guy right there in the middle to maybe fix that a little bit. I think Pitts kind of had a pretty decent season. I think he's got a little bit of work left to do, but I think he's turning out to be better than most people would think. I mean, obviously, fantasy owners are not a big fan that Pitts is not really playing great football, but he also has not really had a quarterback until this year. And when he did, he was playing pretty good football. So hopefully the Falcons are finally getting that kind of thing everywhere, but their defense needs a little bit of help. There were some points where I watched some games and they were just letting up a lot of points. And yeah, defense, we know it wins championships, but it also helps out in the regular season. Because if you have that defensive there, heck, even a young quarterback can struggle and get a little bit of help. The Arizona Cardinals, they definitely need some pass rush help. That is a big thing for the Arizona Cardinals. They do need to look at defensive line help a lot. The linebackers are okay, and the secondary, I think, improved this last year. Getting a little help over there, I completely understand, but I don't think that's the biggest need for the Cardinals just right now. They definitely need help on the offensive line, basically everywhere. But the left tackle position, they need some guards, they need some tackles, they need a solid center that's going to be the anchor right there. I think you do need some wide receiver help just for someone to pair along and makes Jay. You do have Trey McBride, who's played really good football, but just finding you a number 2 and number 3 person would really be crucial to the Arizona Cardinals' help. They have a pretty good football team. I think that they improved a lot this year, and there's a lot of things going well for them. And going forward, I could see them being a pretty good team. But yeah, for now, you're just gonna have to go out there and go get you some help. The Cincinnati Bengals, we already know them. They're gonna need defense. And after I'd made these, we found out that he will very likely get franchise tagged. Now, you're still going to probably have to pay Jamar. Jamar is not going to be a cheap date. He is a very good football player. And the Bengals are a very cheap organization. I mean, everybody has talked about it, everybody has said it. If you don't go out there and pay Jamar, you're going to be in trouble for a while because that is probably the second best receiver in the league. You could even argue for first. It's him and Jefferson and everybody else right now. But yeah, you got to go get you some help over there. They definitely need tight end help because Sicky was pretty good, but I think you just need a little bit of depth, a better blocking tight end especially, and maybe another better pass catcher. There were too many times where the Bengals should have won games and they should have got themselves in the playoffs, but they didn't. And that's frustrating, and it should be frustrating for them. The offensive line, we already know they need help, especially on the tackle side. This is always a recurring thing with the Bengals that they just always need help defensively and on the offensive side. They gotta get some offensive line help. Your running game, I think you had a little bit of hopeful things for. I think you could probably maybe go get one of these running backs in the draft, but really, I don't think that's your biggest issue. I think it's really basically everywhere but the quarterback and running back position right now. Seattle Seahawks, they need offensive line help. And I put quarterback here, not because Gino's a bad quarterback. Gino's a pretty good quarterback, I think but he has a contract coming up soon, and you're probably going to have to go find you a backup. Sam Howell's okay, but I don't know if he's the guy to answer. And this quarterback class has some guys that are probably going to be good depth pieces, like Jackson Dart, Kyle McCord. I know Quinn Ewers is coming out. Will Howard's coming out. The offensive line definitely is going to be really talented. And offensive line help is definitely going to be very talented, but I don't think you're getting Campbell this far, and I don't think you're getting Banks this far either. I know a lot of people are saying that they could be guards. I don't know if I believe that whatsoever, but I'm kind of listening. Um, they do need defensive help basically everywhere but the secondary, and not even that it's a really big issue. It's just that they need to get a little bit of depth over there. Seahawks are a very good football team. They were pretty dang close to the playoffs. Them and the Bengals both were those teams that were pretty much just a game out. And you get them a little bit of help, and you're probably talking this team in the playoffs. But yeah, they don't have a lot of big issues right now. They're pretty depth. Obviously, contracts will change some of that, but we'll see where they go from there. But I think Seahawks. I think if you're the head coach, Mike McDonald, that you are pretty happy with that. And even number three here could be solved by how good of a coach he actually is, and he's a very good coach. I mean, look how they did in just year one. Like Seattle doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, but especially if the NFC West is going to be wide open right now, you might want to go build real quick. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the first team in the playoffs. This is big. Um, One of their big things is going to be wide receiver, and the reason for that is one, Godwin's contract is coming up, but two, when injuries were happening, the Buccaneers were struggling. When you lost Mike Evans, when you lost Chris Godwin, you were in big, big trouble. Now, they need offensive line help. That's going to be incredibly important. Their rush is going to need a little bit of help, and their defense is going to need some trickling here and there. But right now, I think the focus is basically securing at the wide receiver position, right? Mike Evans, he's getting up there in age. He's playing really good football. We're happy for him, but getting some help is going to be important. And I think for right now, Tampa Bay, that needs to be their crucial point. That needs to be their selling point right then and there. And they need to go out there and get some offensive help. Denver Broncos, they're young at wide receiver, but and maybe these guys end up developing well. But at the same time, I think if you see a half decent receiver out here on this free agency, you go get him. If you see McMillan fall all the way down here, you get him. You see Burden fall all the way down here, go get him. Franklin was pretty solid at times, and the other one I'm already forgetting his name, and I feel bad about it. But other than the rookies, they had Cortland Sutton, and Cortland Sutton is obviously very serviceable. But I think going out and getting more consistent help over there would be really important for the Denver Broncos. The tight end position has obviously been a need for a while, ever since they traded away Noah Fant. And I even could see them getting like Colston Loveland if he's there. That'd be a pretty big pickup for the Denver Broncos. I could definitely see it. So, yeah, that would be another one. Defensive depth is mostly just in case of contracts. Benito's going to need to get paid. Ollie Moss eventually is going to get paid, I think. He had some moments where he was kind of rough. But, yeah, you have Surtain. You got to build around him. That's basically all it is. Benito looked really, really good. Their pass rush could use a little bit of help. They weren't really doing very great against the Bills. So I think going to get you some defensive end help is going to be really important over there. I think their offensive line took a lot of big strides this year. Um, Maybe a couple pieces over there, but right now I think Denver's in a really, really, really good position. Pittsburgh Squealers, they're going to need a quarterback because they've already pretty much announced they don't want Russ back. And Fields, I'm not 100% sure he is a starting quarterback level. But if you do start Fields, I would at the very least go get you a backup. And I have a pretty big name right off the top of my head, and his name is Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe could fill that slot really well, especially if you do want a mobile guy. But if you don't want to continue with Justin Fields, there's a couple quarterbacks in this draft like Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe, because I just don't think they're getting Shador or Cam unless they make a really big move up or they fall, which I could definitely see happening, but I don't think it will. They need help in the secondary, especially in Pittsburgh. Lamar Jackson carved them apart, and he does that to a lot of teams. But when you're the highest paid defense in the league, that's just not something that can happen. You know what I mean? And it did. And it did, and it got rough. Pittsburgh needs a lot of help. Pat Freiermuth is basically the only spot over there on the offensive side that I would keep. Their O-line's bad. Well, and you could bring Najee back. Najee's a very good player. We'll see if Arthur Smith can get that figured out if they do bring him back. Wide receiver, if you're keeping Pickens, you still need to get a number two. Pickens is going to be a big issue, right? Because he does continue to commit off the field penalties, and you really don't want to see that. But it is a thing that's going to continue to happen. Yeah, they don't have a lot of weaknesses. Um, I don't, not a lot of weaknesses. No, they have a lot of weaknesses. But and the problem is for the Steelers, they're always a team that just somehow gets themselves in this playoff position because they always have a winning record somehow. And yeah, I think they got a lot of work to do. They really do. But I think for one, you got to start with the quarterback. You got to have the guy to build around. Their offensive line has not been perfect. It's been okay, you know, serviceable stuff like that. But you got to go get some help over there. The Los Angeles Chargers. Big thing is going to be wide receiver. You're going to need somebody that's not Lad McConkey to catch the football. Um, and I know that Herbert had a bad game. He looked rough. He looked bad. I'm the number one Herbert fan, so that was also rough for me to watch. But, and here's a big but, I don't think that that's the only issue over there in LA. Um, they need a tight end. Um, when your best tight end is Will Disley, I just don't think that's the guy to go. They're getting older on the defensive line and at the safety position. They're going to need to go get some defensive help. Khalil Mack is a very good football player. I don't think I bring him back. Joey Bosa, I don't know if I bring him back. And that's crazy. And a few months ago, that would have been crazy for me to say, but I don't know if you do. I think that I think they have a lot of issues. Herbert's a very good quarterback. Now, here's the thing: he's going to have to be a little bit more consistent. That's going to be a problem right now. As he wasn't very consistent, things weren't going very well for him, and he needed to keep moving forward. But the best way to do that is to go get the man some help and go prove it. Another thing I should have mentioned was running back because I forgot J.K. Dobbins was a free agent this year. They're going to need to get a running back more than likely. But we've already talked about this draft is full of really good ones, and Jim Harbaugh seems to do a really good job of running the football no matter who's the guy taking them. So hopefully that the Chargers are not really that big of hell and that they can make these moves and go get some help. Go prove it wasn't a fluke because y'all played some really good football last year. You got to Houston, you just unfortunately fumbled the bag. The Green Bay Packers, they're going to be cornerback. I could see Jair Alexander being cut, and that's shocking to say, but I really do see that happening. And Green Bay is going to need some help in those spots over there. Their secondary is really rough right now. Their D line, uh, and the best thing about this is that their defense actually played pretty well against the Eagles. It was the offense that was a little bit of an issue. And that's why getting a true number one receiver is going to be the thing. You have so many great talents. You have Dobbs, you have Watson, you have Reed. Try to find you a true number one. Unfortunately, T. Higgins is going to get franchise tag more than likely. That would have been my pick for the Packers. Now, Deebo Samuel is apparently on the trade block. Cooper Kupp is apparently on the trade block. I would maybe go make a move. And I know that's saying a lot because that's basically insinuating that you can do that at any point. But I think the Packers do need to go make a move. And if they don't, they're in trouble. Um, yeah, Packers are a good football team, but they're going to need to get help because this is the time to spark, right? Bears have a brand new head coach. Vikings didn't play great football. Lions are highly getting gutted on their coaching side. You gotta go get the help to go beat these teams. They're really good. But the Packers have the talent. They just have to make the adjustments and the potential to get there. And the last team we're going to talk about for now is the Minnesota Vikings. They need some help in secondary. That team got carved up by old Matthew Stafford, which I should have expected. I really should have. Their running game was not that great. There were times where, and this is me being a sports betting guy, I bet on Aaron Jones to make some runs, and it just didn't happen. Their offensive line is okay. That needs a little bit of help. I think their secondary is really their really biggest issue over there in Minnesota. They have the defensive coordinator that you want in Brian Flores. He's a phenomenal defensive coordinator. You have a great head coach in Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, I think for the GM, you just look at your issues in the secondary and go, okay, well, let's just go get a little bit of help there. Go help get a little bit of a running game established, especially if J.J. McCarthy is going to be the guy, which I fully do expect him to be going forward. I don't see you bringing Sam Darnold back, especially after the last two games. But if you do, I don't blame you. That being said, I think the Vikings are in a situation where you're probably not going to be in the playoffs next year, especially if you're starting a rookie quarterback. But at the same time, I actually don't know. So Minnesota is in a really good spot here, and I think that that's a good thing for them. But for now, I think that you gotta go get some help on the defensive side of the ball. And then if you're having a rookie quarterback, obviously the O line's a big thing. That's what the Patriots need to do. It's what the Titans need to do, especially if they go get a rookie quarterback. What the Raiders need to do. Offensive line is going to be the biggest thing, and we saw that in Super Bowl just a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago at this point. But yeah, for now, that's going to be it. We're going to drive into the divisional round all the way to the Super Bowl in the last video of this series, and then we're going to have to come up with something else to do, right? Maybe a mock draft if I could figure out how to do it. It'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Um, but yeah, that's going to be it for now for me. I do appreciate you stopping by. I hope you do like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to tune in for the next one. Hopefully, we'll get that out tomorrow. I do plan on doing something tonight, so maybe we'll get that done. But for now, like I said, make sure to follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/IamCodyLear. We're doing a Hornets franchise, playing college football 25, playing my time at Sandrock. We're playing a lot of things over there, so I would definitely come by and check out if you want to. Come hang out with us, and thank you very much for being here whatsoever. I've already said it once. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I do want to hear it. Thank you all so very much. Have a great day.